Good morning, my knitters. How are you? And if you're not a knitter, you're still welcome too. You're watching Recreational Knitting, and my name is Karen. I'm coming to you from chilly Ormond Beach, Florida. All the natives are saying it's so cold and, pulling out their winter clothes, and, it's like 44 in the morning. So, yeah, you turn the heat on for, an hour, get the chill out of the air, and then move on with your life. So, yeah, Florida's a funny place. All those Minnesotans and New Yorkers and Montanans and Mainers, they're all down here complaining about how cold it is. Really? So, you're probably in a place where it's much colder, and I'm sorry. We moved here to get rid of that. So, let's get some administrative work out of the way. You are watching the third episode of kind of a stash down challenge for the year 2024. I'm calling it Stash Be Gone with a hashtag, Stash Be Gone. I'll put it right along in here. And along with that goes hashtag Whip Be Gone 2024. This is just a challenge. It's your challenge for yourself, because we all know we have too much yarn. And I welcome you to go back and look at I think I called them Craft Stash Down 1 and Craft Stash Down 2. How creative is that? Yeah. Anyway, and this likely will be called Craft Stash Down 3, just saying. So in the first one, I gave you some strategies of ways to organize and think about your stash, and give you some ideas of ways to kind of get yourself together in a good way with your yarn stashes. In the second episode, I still talk a little bit about that, but then I believe I also talked about ways to stop purchasing yarn. And I have some more to add to that this week, but this week's main focus is joy in knitting and intention in knitting. And that's what this will be focused on. But first, let's talk a little bit more about, I'm hoping that you're organizing things. I'm hoping that that's freeing you a bit. I know that I was becoming overwhelmed with my stash and organizing it, and I still haven't gotten this stuff in my inventory. And that's okay. I figured it might take me 4 or 5 months. I'm actually ahead of the game. It really is cutting into the knitting time though, isn't it? Ugh. Anyway, if you are a quilter, a beater, whatever your craft you're into, you know what I'm talking about. That stash that you love, that you thought it was a beautiful purchase, may still spark that joy, or it may not. So we talked a little bit about how to de-stash. There's certainly ways that you can sell online. You can certainly, in person at your knit night, there's a variety of ways. I don't need to tell you those ways. But another way to do it is to donate it. And what I mean when I say donate, there is a textile museum in Canada. Let me get it. It is the Textile Museum of Canada. Wow, what a tricky name that one was. Their website is TILE, Tile Museum, one word, .ca. And if you're in Canada, this might be a good way to do this. If you've got stash, whether it any kind of fiber stash particularly, they are they're asking for donations. They don't want everything to end up in a landfill. And so they are taking donations, but there's rules for their donations. They'd like for you to take a picture of what you'd like to donate with an email with your information, you know, your name, your address, I think you have to be a Canadian resident. I don't think United States residents or others can do that. But they're asking you that you send that to reuse@textilemuseum.ca. As of November 2022, which is the latest information that I have, and I think it had only been doing this program for maybe a little over a year, their customers have repurposed over 4,700 pounds of fabric, yarn, thread, lace, and more. So that's something to really consider if you are a Canadian. What they do is they have a yard sale, but they call I think they still call it this, more than just a yardage sale. So cute title, you know, play on words. And it's dedicated to keep fibers out of landfills so that people can go to this yard sale that they apparently have each year, or maybe have multiple times a year, I'm not sure, and can purchase very reasonably priced fibers and use it in their own stash. I feel very privileged. I have a very large stash. Not everybody is. And so this is a way in Canada that they're making fiber arts more accessible. So in your community, you might want to hunt up something like this that takes place, or there might be a thrift shop. I know there is one in Baltimore. I know there's one in Minneapolis. And you can donate your things to them. Don't know anything about the tax write-offs. It doesn't really matter to me. It's just going to further art education, fiber education in those two places. So look in your community and see if there's a place that you can donate. It's just not all about nursing homes, Girl Scout troops, schools, and all of that. So if you're going through your stash, you find, what was I thinking? Like, I found a few, and see if you can donate it to that type of organization. Win-win for everybody. Let's talk about the no buying. How is that going? Are you making conditions for yourself? Like you make it through 2 months and you're allowed to, you know, drop down in the box below what kind of system you're trying to do. What I'm trying to do is really no buy year. I told you I had a gift certificate, which I still haven't gone to the yarn store for. We'll see when I get down there what I can find. So I'm allowed to do that. And I did order I'll show you a mini. No, can't do that yet. I'll show you next time. A mini set from Mousewitch Yarns in the UK, and it came yesterday. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. So I think I bought that pre-2024, but I'm not sure. But I allowed myself to buy that because when I saw the colors, magnificent. So that's what I'm going to allow myself. And if anyone gives me yarn, I'm allowed also to use that. Definitely, I've used 300 grams so far. Behind me is, I don't know whether you can see that from the camera angle, I hope. I'm finished the body, trying to do monogamous knitting, and that hasn't worked so well, but I'm close. But I'm on the first sleeve. The second sleeve will be picked up when this one's done. It's finished. I steamed it to get that straight. And so that is, what is it? 400. I've got 400 out just in this sweater. So then I have another 100 grams out. So again, my goal is to not buy, and if things are gifted to me, I'm allowed, but I really want to make myself accountable to finish whips and to get some of this yarn that's making me feel heavy. And that brings us to a couple other things that might help you no buy. This, I used to date a financial planner years ago, and he told me a lot about, credit card debt and all of that. And he said, freeze your credit card. Literally freeze it. Put it in a container of water or a baggie. Put it in your freezer. Hopefully the ice will cover up the numbers. And at the time I thought, what a foolish idea. Now I'm thinking, that's not a bad idea. I don't know how you work your credit cards or anything, don't need to know, but I have a few, and one is my emergency, one is for purchases, and one I really don't use very much at all. But I thought, for the purchases, I can slow that down. I can freeze that card, literally. And what my ex-friend used to tell me is, by the time you get it unfrozen so that you can read the numbers and the code, they didn't have the code in that day, but I'm just ad-libbing here, that you may have talked yourself out of that purchase online. And of course, you can't take a frozen credit card when you go to your local yarn store, which brings up the next little subject of no buy. Have a heart-to-heart with your local yarn store and say, I've been a good customer to you. This year, I need to knit some of that beautiful yarn that you've sold me in the past. Ask for their cooperation, not to be one of those, and they may not be, anyway, not to be one of those salespeople that says, oh, we're getting in a shipment of your favorite yarn, and it'll be in Tuesday. Do you want me to hold you a sweater's quantity of any color? So have a little heart-to-heart with the people in your local yarn store and say, this is something, and you can say, I'm putting the money this year into my retirement account, or whatever account, my daughter's college fund, whatever it is, and hopefully they'll be a partner with you. Doesn't mean that you don't need to go and support your yarn store. They still have classes. They still have other things that you might be able to purchase as a gift for a friend. There's lots of other ways that you can support them. And it's just an idea. This is your stash down, not mine. This is the hardest one, I think, is when you are out and about in your city, your town. Don't stop at your local yarn shop. Just don't. Unless you have a specific, I need, 5mm tips for my needles, okay? Got to do it, you got to do it. Try not to go into Michael's, even though that they have really good home decor, like, Valentine's Day is coming up. And if you do need to go into those places, go, do what you need to get, come back. Don't do like we've all done. It's like, well, I'm here, I'll just look. Oh, look, they have some Patton's Croix on sale. Don't do that. Just another strategy. Did I mention to take your credit cards offline? All your favorite school stores that you shop from, let's say that you shop from Wool Warehouse or Jimmy Bean's Wool. If you take your credit card off of that, you'll be less inclined to walk across the room and get your credit card because you have to put it back in. It might make you think a bit, do I really need this? And sometimes you might really need that. You might need that last ball of yarn to complete a project. We've all been there, and it is what it is. But you're just looking at their sale items and you go, Alabrigo's on sale, and look at that beautiful color. I have no idea what I'm doing with it. Oh, I think I'll buy a sweater's quantity. We need to think and buy with intention. All right, we are now moving on to what I call joy. I'm going to host a knit along, make along, I don't know what you call it, make along, I guess. And I'm going to call it February Frog or Finish. And what we will be doing is looking at our current WIPs in progress, and looking at them and saying, do I really want that? Do I really like that yarn? Does this project bring me joy? Do I really dislike knitting this particular pattern? All of the things. You can start doing it now. It's certainly, but it's just one of those things that it was catchy. February, if you get further into your WIPs, if you've finished up a couple and you get further in and you keep putting that bag to the back and keep putting it back to the back, there might be a reason. You might need to frog it. The other thing is that we're going to look at the number of WIPs we have, and is it reasonable to be able to finish those? Is it something that you'd like to never see again? Frog it. And this is something that you're going to be doing on your own, but I will be posting. I'm going to be doing a WIP parade the end of January, and I'm going to show you the good, bad, and the ugly, and I'm going to decide on camera what things I want to finish and what things I want to frog. I already know of 2 things that I want to frog. They bring me absolutely no joy whatsoever, and they've been in hibernation for a while. So I'm going to frog it, and I'm going to frog it right on camera. So stay tuned. It's always satisfying, isn't it? Somebody making a hard decision and sticking to it. Okay, knitting with joy. This is where you do a little self-examination. What types of projects give you joy? Are you a sock knitter? Do you really like garments? Do you really like working with some of the unspun yarns? Do you like making necklaces? What is it that brings you joy? So I can't answer that for you. I've become, because I've made so many, I've become less of a sock knitter and more of a garment knitter in the past year and a half, 2 years. Part of that was we were taking that extended RV trip, and there were places that we were going to be going that were cold. And I thought, well, let's knit some sweaters. And that's exactly what I did. I really enjoyed that. I really loved making the sweaters. It gives me great satisfaction to knit a garment and then to wear it. Now, Florida isn't the greatest place to work with some of the Norwegian wools, but I'm going to give it a shot just because I like it. And it gives me joy. That's what I have decided to try to do with more intent. Now, I still like shawls and I still like socks. Not a real fan of hats, but I'll make them. But it's mostly garments. What about you? What gives you joy? Put that in the comments below. I'd love to know. I know some people, it changes over time. And, you know, if you're a newer knitter, you know, you might be making scarves and shawls. If you're a 50-year plus knitter, you might be, I don't know, knitting color work only, you know, and crazy intarsia sweaters. Although I understand that intarsia isn't that hard. Someday. Is it brioche that gives you joy? What is it? Put it in the comments below. I'd love to know. From that, mental health professionals have repeatedly told us over and over that our things that we own, the things that we surround ourselves with, give us joy, and they reflect our mental health. If you've got a cupboard or 5 that have a stack of Rubbermaid bins on top of each other, maybe that's weighing you down. Maybe that's giving you some anxiety, maybe even depression. I think it could happen. We all know that we only need to watch about 15 minutes of a Hoarders episode to realize that there's something somewhere that is seriously difficult for that person. So I hope we're not to that stage, because that's very distressing, and that is a symptom of a pathology that I'm not equipped to diagnose. But it is interesting that they always have a psychologist when they're working with them. It's hard for people to let things go out of their lives, but sometimes it can be freeing. So don't be afraid to donate, to gift, to, if you have to, throw away, or preferably send it off to a thrift shop that might be able to make some money off of it and make good with that money. Clutter is kind of a sign of mental distress in some ways. It doesn't need to be like hoarders or anything like that, but just things laying about, perhaps in your craft room, that you just need to take 15 minutes, put it away. That's the clutter I'm talking about. So when we obtain too much yarn, too much stash, too much whatever, that starts to turn into, wow, look at that beautiful yarn I have, to, oh my goodness, what am I going to do with that yarn? So, another motivator for trying not to buy this year. It's your stash down. You have to decide. But I know I'm at the level right now. I didn't realize how much yarn I had left behind. I thought it was only a small tub. I left 2 big tubs of yarn and don't remember buying any of it and not remembering what it was going to be used for. This shows me that being a monogamous knitter is probably a really good thing if you can do it, or sticking to 1 or 2 projects while you whittle things down. So what I have done in my mind, I haven't written it yet, but in my mind, I've taken my goals. I'm going to finish something that's coming straight from my stash. And when I finish that, I'm going to take a whip and finish that. Then I'm allowed to pick something new to cast on, because you know that always gives us the rush. New from my stash, those bags, literally my Ziplocs, my fancy Ziplocs, and I can cast that on. And while I'm working on that, maybe pull up a whip that only has a little bit to do. So within a short amount of time, I can do several projects and kind of ignore some of the other ones that we've got. One of the ways that I would do that is just, what is the easiest thing to get off my needles? I have a pair of socks in here that needs an afterthought heel, just one, an afterthought heel. That's going to be my first whip for this year. So, or FO, you know, whipped FO. So, and it's going to bring me joy. It really will. This is the stuff that I don't have projects for yet. So maybe sometime in the middle of the year, I'll start saying, okay, I'm going to make a vest for my daughter for Christmas, and pull out some yarns that go together and group them together. Doing things with intention will bring you joy. Put in your comment below what project you're thinking of that will give you joy this week. I'm going to be trying to work on some sleeves because I know the joy of the finished object will be more than the drudgery of thinking about 2 sleeves to be knitted. Not a fan of sleeves, but I'm going to change the inner thinking and saying, I will wear this February 5th to a function that I know I'm going to be going to, professional function. And this will be a beautiful outfit with some black pants. So if you can frame it, not Sleeve Island. Let's not talk about Sleeve Island. Let's talk about a finished sweater instead. Intention will bring you joy. So don't forget, and I'll put it here again, #StashBeGone, no E and B, 2024. Whip be gone. Again, no E for B, 2024. I'll put them right here. And also, get ready and think about February, finish her frog. What do you think? We might have some freeing up so we can knit intentionally. Okay, and on that note, I'll leave you with my usual. Knit in peace. Stay warm.